You feel it, don't you? That moment when his name lights up your phone again, sending a little jolt through your chest. It's been days, weeks, maybe even months since you last heard from him, and now, suddenly, there he is, breaking the silence. A rush of excitement floods you, followed by a flurry of thoughts. What does this mean? Why now? Could this be the moment where everything changes? It's normal to feel that way. You can't help it. Human nature, the butterflies, the curiosity, the hope that maybe, just maybe, he's finally ready to make things right. After all, you've wondered, puzzled, even agonized over why he disappeared in the first place. And now, with a simple message or call, the silence is over. It feels like a second chance. But here's the truth. You don't have to respond right away. I know it's tempting. You want to text back immediately, maybe throw in a witty response, or just say something casual, like you've been unaffected by the silence. But what if I told you that your first move should not be to respond? What if I told you that the smartest, most empowered thing you can do is to pause just for a moment before you even think about sending a reply? Think about it. When someone who has been silent for so long suddenly comes back, it can feel like a rush of emotions. The instant you see their name pop up on your screen, there's that initial rush of adrenaline. Your mind starts running through all the memories, all the what-ifs, and you begin to imagine all the ways this could go right. You want to believe that this time things will be different, that maybe they've finally realized your worth, that they've missed you and want to make amends. It feels like the universe has handed you a second chance, right? But the reality is, the universe didn't hand you anything. That message, it's just a message. It's not a solution, and it certainly isn't proof of anything substantial. So before you get caught up in the excitement of their return, before you let that initial rush of emotion guide your response, you need to pause. You need to stop, take a breath, and ask yourself, what do I truly want here? Do I want a quick fix to my loneliness, or do I want clarity and emotional security? Am I looking for closure, or am I looking for something real and sustainable? That shift in perspective is crucial. The truth is, just because he's back doesn't mean you owe him access to you. It doesn't mean you have to make space for him again in your life, not without knowing where you stand. And that's where the pause comes in. It's not about punishing anyone. It's about protecting your peace. It's about making sure that you don't end up repeating a pattern, that you don't fall into the same trap of rushing to respond out of insecurity or the fear that this might be your last chance. When someone has been absent, whether for a few days or a few months, it's important to remember that you are the one in control here. You decide if this person and this message are worth your energy. And the smartest way to handle this is to make sure you're not responding from a place of scarcity or neediness. You're responding from a place of confidence, clarity, and emotional maturity. So, don't let that initial rush of excitement dictate your response. Don't jump in and give him what he's looking for just because he decided to show up again. You deserve better than that. And you know what? You are better than that. The longer you wait, the more powerful your response becomes. By not jumping into the conversation immediately, you're making it clear that your time and attention are valuable. And that, my friend, is a message that will be heard loud and clear. When he reaches out after silence, it's easy to feel like you should respond. After all, the world tells us that when someone makes an effort, we should acknowledge it. There's a societal pressure to be polite, to respond quickly, to show you're open and willing. And yet, when it comes to relationships, the real question is, do you actually owe him anything? The truth is, no matter how long it's been or how much you care, you are not obligated to respond just because he decided to break the silence. In the moment, when your heart races and your mind is flooded with questions, what does he want? What if this is my chance? It's easy to forget one important thing. You don't need him to define your worth. Your worth doesn't come from the approval of others or the attention they decide to give you after disappearing for weeks, months, or even longer. It's not about whether he reached out. It's about why he's back and whether he's truly ready to meet your standards. Remember, silence isn't just an absence of communication. It's a statement. It speaks volumes. It says, you weren't a priority, and that's okay. People go silent for all kinds of reasons: distractions, emotional confusion, or just a lack of maturity. But the silence doesn't change the reality. He chose to step away, and now, with one message, he expects to simply pick up where he left off. But you don't need to rush to fix that. Just because someone reappears doesn't mean you're required to give them back access to your life. In fact, the best thing you can do is to hold back for a moment, assess the situation, and make sure that if you do respond, it's from a place of power, not need. This isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. Clear about your own value, clear about what you've been through in the silence and what you've learned about yourself. It's about saying, if you want to come back into my life, you need to show me that you've grown, that you understand the cost of your silence. I'm not here to just pick up where we left off. I'm here for something more meaningful, something real. If you're not ready for that, I don't need you in my life. So take your time. Don't feel the need to reply just because you've been given an opportunity. Reclaim the power that was once lost in the silence. You don't need to rush. You don't need to give him another chance to hurt you. It's your call, always has been. Now that you've taken a moment to breathe, you've paused and recognized that you don't need to respond immediately. The next step is understanding the true power of that pause. This pause allows you to separate your feelings from your emotions, to step out of the past and focus on the present moment. When he reappears, there's a temptation to feel that rush of nostalgia, remembering the good times, the laughter, the connection you once shared. It's so easy to slip back into the comfort of what you once had, but you've got to remember, the silence happened for a reason. And if you don't pause to reflect, you'll slip into the fantasy of who he was, not who he actually is. This pause isn't just about waiting, it's about evaluating. What has he shown you since the silence began? Has he made any effort to change? Has he acknowledged his absence and taken responsibility? Or did he just reappear like nothing ever happened, expecting to pick things up where they left off? Let's be real here. If he just sends a message saying, "Hey, I've been thinking about you," that's not a sign of growth or emotional maturity. It's just a line. It's a soft attempt to break the silence, to test if you're still available, to see if he can still gain access to you without having to make any real effort. And here's the thing, you're not interested in lazy efforts. You're not interested in breadcrumbs or vague messages that don't address what's truly important. You deserve more than that. You deserve clarity. You deserve accountability. And if those things aren't present when he reaches out, that pause becomes your best response. The pause gives you time to check in with yourself. It's a moment to ask, what do I need right now? Not from him, but from myself. You need clarity, not confusion. You need honesty, not games. And most of all, you need the strength to be patient, to resist the urge to rush into something that doesn't serve your growth. So, as you sit with that pause, ask yourself, what do I truly want out of this interaction? Is it closure? Is it an explanation? Or is it something deeper, something that acknowledges your worth and the growth you've experienced during the silence? The pause is powerful because it gives you perspective. It lets you remember how you felt when he disappeared, when the silence was there and you were left wondering what happened. And when you remind yourself of that, you come back stronger. You're no longer willing to be swept up by old feelings. You've seen the silence for what it is, a lesson in self-respect. Now that you've taken the time to pause and reflect, the next question you need to ask yourself is, what has really changed? When he reaches out after silence, it's natural to wonder if this is the moment when things will finally be different. Maybe this time he'll be accountable. Maybe he'll explain himself. Maybe he'll show you that he's finally ready to meet you where you are. But here's the critical question. Has anything really changed, or is it just the same old pattern in a different form? Think about it. People don't just change overnight. Real change requires effort. It requires accountability. It requires the person who left to not only apologize, but to show up with actions, not just words. And when someone disappears and then reappears, you've got to look beyond the surface. You have to be willing to ask yourself, what's different now? Is he coming back with the intention to rebuild, to create something real, or is he just looking for attention, validation, or comfort? A simple, "I've been thinking about you," doesn't mean anything unless it's backed up by action. It's easy for someone to reach out after being silent, but if there's no substance to the message, no acknowledgement of the pain caused by their absence, then it's just noise. It's not a comeback, it's a test. He's not coming back because he's ready for a real connection. He's coming back because he wants to see if you're still there, if you'll still give him access, if you'll still make him feel good about himself. And here's the important part. You don't owe him that. You don't owe him access to your life just because he's bored or lonely or looking for reassurance. You've got to remember that your time and energy are valuable. If he's not coming back with sincerity, with a clear intention to show up and make things right, then you don't need to entertain him. Ask yourself, what do I truly need from him right now? Do I need an apology? Do I need closure? Do I need to see him take responsibility for his actions? If the answer is yes, then his message needs to be more than a half-hearted, "Hey, how have you been?" or "I've been thinking about you." If he's truly ready to make things right, he will show up with substance, with accountability, with a willingness to do the work. The reality is, nothing has really changed until he shows that he's willing to put in the effort, to step up and be emotionally mature. You're not here to provide validation for someone who disappeared without explanation. You're here to decide if this person is truly someone you want in your life moving forward. And that's a decision only you can make. So when you're assessing what has changed, don't just go by the words on the screen. Go deeper. Look at his actions or lack thereof. Actions always speak louder than words. And if he's not coming back with clarity, accountability, and intention, then you have your answer. Now that you've asked yourself what has really changed, it's time to set the tone for how this interaction will unfold. This moment is crucial. Your response, or lack thereof, will define the relationship moving forward. And here's the most important thing to remember. You are in control of the tone. You don't have to let his message dictate your emotional state. You don't have to immediately fall back into old patterns. The truth is, your response is a reflection of your self-worth and the standards you've set for the people in your life. This is where you can make a powerful choice, not just about how you respond to him, but about how you respond to yourself. What kind of energy do you want to bring into this conversation? What kind of energy do you want him to bring into your life? It's so easy to get caught up in the desire to get things back to normal or to quickly respond just to keep the peace. But that's not real peace. That's avoidance. True peace comes when you decide not to settle for less than you deserve. So how do you set the tone with clarity? First, don't rush. Don't jump into a conversation because you feel like you should, or because you don't want to seem distant or indifferent. This isn't about punishing him or playing games. It's about maintaining your emotional boundaries and showing up as someone who respects themselves enough to wait for a real, meaningful connection. You're not here to appease anyone. You're here to assess whether this person's re-entry into your life aligns with your values and your emotional needs. So, when you do respond, do it from a place of calm and confidence. Respond with intention, not need. A simple, direct message like, "Hey, it's been a while. What made you reach out?" can be incredibly powerful. It's clear, it's respectful, and it sets a boundary without being cold. It tells him, "I see you, but I'm not jumping into anything. If you want access to me, you need to show me why you deserve it." It doesn't chase him, and it doesn't seek validation. It just invites him to meet you at your level with clarity and purpose. This type of response immediately shifts the power dynamic. No longer are you the one waiting for him to respond. Now he's the one who needs to prove his intention. And if he can't do that, if his message is vague, if he dances around the issue, or if he gives you more fluff instead of substance, then you'll know exactly where you stand. And that's powerful. Remember, this isn't about getting back to what was or trying to relive the past. This is about setting the tone for the future. It's about ensuring that you're not settling for someone who's just there for the ride when it's convenient for them. If he truly values you, he'll want to earn his way back into your life, not just stroll back in because he can. So set the tone with confidence. Let him know that your time, energy, and emotions aren't freely given anymore. If he wants to re-enter your life, he needs to show up with intention, not just nostalgia. And if he can't do that, you don't need to respond at all. Silence can be your most powerful answer. Now you've paused, you've reflected, you've set the tone, and you've asked yourself all the right questions. The final step is about making the decision to honor your own boundaries and respecting your own worth. At this point, it's clear that you hold the power in this situation. You have already done the emotional work of checking in with yourself. You've decided whether his return fits with your vision of the future, whether he's shown up with accountability, intention, and respect. But here's the truth. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is nothing. We live in a world where emotional responses are often encouraged, where the pressure to reply quickly, to make things right, to not seem distant, is overwhelming. But real strength lies in respecting your own boundaries, even when it feels uncomfortable. If the message he sent doesn't meet your standards, if it's just a vague attempt at re-entering your life with no real substance or change, your decision doesn't have to be a big, dramatic statement. It can be as simple as this: no response at all. This isn't about punishing him, it's about honoring yourself. You don't need to chase validation. You don't need to chase answers. You don't need to entertain anything that doesn't align with your standards. You have the right to protect your peace, and that means choosing not to let someone back in just because they've reached out. Remember this: you are not just reacting to his message. You are setting a precedent for how you deserve to be treated in the future. Every time you respond out of emotional desperation, every time you let someone back into your life without them earning it, you're sending the message that your worth is up for negotiation. But when you respond with confidence, with clarity, and with strong boundaries, you're telling the universe and yourself that you know your worth. If his message feels like more of the same, if there's no evidence that he's done the work, if he hasn't shown you respect and emotional maturity, then your silence isn't weakness. It's power. It's self-respect. You're no longer the person who waits for others to define your worth. You're the one who decides what you deserve, what you're willing to accept, and who you're willing to let into your life. So take a deep breath. Take that moment of silence. Recognize that your peace, your clarity, and your emotional well-being are worth more than a temporary fix or a brief interaction that doesn't move you forward. And if he's truly ready to be a part of your life again, he'll make it clear. He'll show up with intention. He'll show up with respect. He'll show up with effort. But until then, you don't need to settle. You don't need to respond to empty gestures or vague attempts to re-enter your life. You're the one in control, and your peace is the most important thing you can protect. If this message resonated with you, if you felt empowered and ready to set the tone for how you deserve to be treated, take a moment right now and hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because you're not alone in this journey of protecting your boundaries. And remember, don't just react, respond with power and clarity. If you haven't already, subscribe for more insights that will help you create the relationships you deserve. Keep your standards high and let your actions speak louder than words.